Part 3 has two types of questions. One of them just has you identify the type of slope, and so you'll essentially see four types of graphs that fit into one of these four formats. And the idea behind our slope is it's merely telling us what sort of change is occurring as we read from left to right. So as we read from left to right, it's just asking how our equation changes. So in the case of this first one, as we go from left to right, our line is going up. So we would be able to say that it has a positive slope. Our next one, as we read from left to right, our line is going down. So instead of positive, we now have a negative slope. Our third case, as we go from left to right, our line is unchanged. It goes neither up or down. So we would say that it has a zero slope. And then finally, in the fourth case, we have a vertical line. It's going straight up and down. So I want you to imagine, as I read from left to right, there's a whole bunch of graph where the line doesn't even exist. And so a vertical line has no slope, and often it'll be phrased as undefined. So it's either no slope or undefined is most common. So some of the questions are just going to ask you to identify which type of slope should be a drop-down menu. And then some of them are actually going to have you find the calculated number. So I'm going to see if I can get enough room right here. And so here's what I want you to remember for a second. When you go to find slope, I want you to remember, just for reference, that slope is the letter M, is a shorthand we often use for it. That'll show up later with our equation of a line. It is also referred to as the change in y over the change in x. And some books or materials might might reference this by using a capital letter delta for Greek letter. So it might say delta y over delta x. That triangle right up there is just the Greek letter delta, and it's just a shorthand for change. So if you ever see that notation with the little triangle, just realize that all it means is the word change or difference. So that's all that's being implied there. Anyways, all this is saying is find the change in y over the change in x. So when we're looking at these problems, one of the strategies we've had is to draw in a slope triangle. And the idea behind our slope triangle is if we draw in that triangle with that right angle in there, we can find my change in x, we can find my change in y. So for this particular case, my change in x would be equal to 1, 2, 3 units, and my change in y would be equal to 1, 2 units. And so if I wanted to find the slope for this problem, my slope is merely going to be the change in y over the change in x, or 2/3. Notice that my number is positive, which matches what we talked about previously. The second one over here, same idea. I've got 2 points. I'm going to draw in that triangle right here. Now take note that I tried to find two ordered pairs that were nice. I didn't necessarily use the x-intercept down here because I don't know exactly where that is. Maybe it's a half, maybe it's a third. I'm not 100% sure. But I know this ordered pair is at 1, 1. So right here, my change in y and my change in x. Change in x is pretty easy. That's just a 1. Because we go one step to the right. Now the change in y, we can count off 1, 2, 3, but because I'm going down with that change in y, it's now going to be a -3. So we're always going to count up or down and to the right. That way the right stays positive and we get our sign based on our y value. So same idea, I can take my slope, and my slope will be my change in y over my change in x, and I now have negative 3 over 1. And that's a little refresher on slope.